What if videos are always fun, but honestly for Hell's Kitchen, I've already covered some of the biggest what ifs when it comes to things like medevacs and quits. So for this video, I figured it'd be fun if we look at the potential first boost from a season, how the winning team lost, and how much that possibly changes the season, and Hell's Kitchen history in general. Some caveats here, I obviously won't include All-Stars since Ramsey eliminated a member from the winning team, and we'll skip season 6 since we saw one chef leave from each kitchen that night. Also, when it comes to seasons where both teams lost, I'll choose someone from the team that didn't end up losing a member, e.g. either Raj or Trev from season 8 since Lisa went home from the red team. Be sure to subscribe and like if you love unique Hell's Kitchen content like this, and with that, let's speculate on who were nearly the first boots of Hell's Kitchen, and how much that changes the course of the season, and in some cases, the course of history.
Bloody hell, here I go again.
We immediately begin with the interesting one here with the first season, as had the blue team lost, the chef most at risk going home are Andrew, Wendy, and the winner of the season and Michael, as they were the ones shown to make mistakes that night. The tricky thing about this is not only who Ramsey would have named the best of the worst, but how they would have gone about their nominations, as it would have been funny had someone like Ralph beat Michael at his own game, and nominate him next to say someone like Jessica. I do think though, in the end, the nominees would have been Andrew for being clueless, and Wendy Jo for backing up the kitchen after she ran out of potatoes, with Wendy Jo being the first boot in this scenario. But most importantly, that means that Carol Ann would have survived, and I would have been so interested to see what she could have done on the line, and I truly think she could have been a black jacket this season. We have another interesting one for season 2, as the chefs in trouble were Tom for slowing down the kitchen on the apps, Larry for being clueless, and Gabe for failing on the Wellingtons. Man, I could truly see it being all three, as while Tom did get the most heat from Ramsey, at the end of the day, all the apps did end up getting served, which is what won the blue team the service in real time. And as we saw, Ramsey spared him 2 times in instances where he could have gone home, with Gabe in fact being one of those people who went home over Tom. I do actually think Larry would be the one to go home here, as I think someone like Keith or Garrett would nominate him for indeed being clueless and a general weak link on paper, and Ramsey would take him out for that reason, similar to Carol Ann from the previous year. But yeah, this is a very interesting one, as it truly is up in the air. But the best news out of all of this, we would get to see even more donkey behavior from Paulie, so that alone is a win.
How long, please, Gabe?
I'm gonna need 10 minutes, Chef.
Oh, come on.
I'm not gonna give it to you not well done.
Oh, come on, Gabe. Come here, you. Just touch that for me, please.
What's wrong?
No, come on. This is so painful. Larry, I know you haven't had much to do, but it'd be just nice to see you a little bit more lively, understanding what's going on, rather than just standing in one spot, big boy, like the Statue of Liberty.
Season 3 now, and this is a very interesting one, as the chefs most at fault here were Vinny and Aaron, with both of them getting kicked off their station. What makes it so interesting is that Ramsey would have to either eliminate an obvious villain and drama starter in Vinny, or an obvious fan favorite in Aaron right away. Even though the villain in real time and Tiffany went home, I don't think Ramsey could have sent home Vinny quite yet. I mean, he literally talked back to Ramsey after service. You can't get rid of someone like that right away. So between that and Ramsey having the excuse to send Aaron home for not only being a bad cook, but having a panic attack before service, I do think Aaron is the first boot here, unfortunately. But speaking of Tiffany, I'm really interested to see how she would have done with a second chance, as not only did she show signs of talent, but was a potential great villain to go up against the underdog Julia, which is why I was so surprised she was eliminated in the first place. Season 4 now, and we have our first obvious one here, as the noms are Sharon for her awful performance on the apps, and Vanessa for failing as leader. In pretty much a carbon copy for what happened in real life, I think Ramsey would give the leader one more shot to prove themselves, and eliminate the chef who did the most wrong during service, with that of course being Sharon. Not to mention the fact that Ramsey was beyond disgusted with Sharon seemingly caring more about appearance as opposed to cooking. Another one here where I'm really interested to see how the first boot would have done going forward, as Dominic, while I don't think he was very long for the game, he shouldn't have been the first boot in the first place, and likely could have made it a few more episodes, barring he didn't do worse than Jason in the following couple of services, which shouldn't be much of a problem.
What have you put in there? It stinks of garlic. Garlic risotto. Where's the water? Sharon, enough's enough. F off and go and put some more makeup on.
Just because I look pretty doesn't mean I cannot cook. I like to look nice. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that.
On to season 5, and this one is beyond obvious, as Colleen was far and away the worst chef that night, much less on the red team. Once again, we got another possible first boot who could have done a lot with a second chance, and Sarah, as while she didn't show as much promise as the other first boots, she certainly wasn't a train wreck by any means, and theoretically could have hid behind the likes of Charlie and Seth going forward, maybe even farther had she found her groove. Season 7 is a very interesting one, as it would likely be between the 3 chefs that got kicked out in Benjamin, Salvatore, and Mikey. Obviously what makes it so interesting is just how much trouble Benjamin was in, As while Salvatore is more lost and Mikey did more wrong, let's not forget that Ben putting his spit in the food is what got him and Salvatore ejected. I do think it is still Salvatore or Mikey though, and it comes down to whether the blue team nominates Mikey or nominates Ben and Sal for being on the apps together, which is honestly a tough one considering Mikey avoided nomination for seemingly no reason in the following service, but I do think in the end he is nominated in the first boot of the season, with Stacy on the red team going home soon after. Season 8 now, and we obviously know the nominees will be Raj and Trev, and boy, we truly got a series changer here, as Trev, who would compete on 2 seasons and be a massive and polarizing figure in each one, would be the first boot. I mean, like, how can he not? There's just simply no way Ramsey could get rid of Raj right away, knowing just how much of a donkey he is. I even always thought Trev got a bit lucky in real life, as Ramsey could have potentially kept Lisa around for a potential rivalry with Sabrina, and let's face it, not being able to make a salad warrants the first boot. But yeah, in this timeline, one of Hell's Kitchen's biggest characters is their first boot over Raj.
Trev! Chef. Trev's salad is, once again, seriously overdressed.
That's just a one leaf, come on!
Yes, chef.
Dress me a salad!
I almost wrapped my hands around his narrow neck. Salad! Salad! Get the salad out! Nothing's easier.
On to season 9, and oh boy, we have probably the most interesting one yet, as this one is clearly between Elise and Carrie. I do unfortunately think that despite Elise doing more wrong than Carrie, Ramsey would have saw the drama potential in her and taken out Carrie. But on the bright side, we wouldn't have to deal with those two bickering in seemingly every episode of the season. And also, this likely means that Paul doesn't win the season, as remember, him being able to control Elise and Carrie when not even Ramsey could, is what propelled him to the win over Will.
I got it, babe. No, I got it. This is my station. Thank you.
Why is she cooking
I
fish?
don't know what she's doing. She just came over here and grabbed it, chef. I mean, are you kidding me? I didn't let her cook it. She came over and grabbed it, chef.
Well, I was gonna cook it for you because we're all a team, right?
Season 10 may just be the biggest what if in Hell's Kitchen history, as had Tavon not completely tanked on the blue team, there's a legit possibility that Christina Wilson, the most successful chef to ever come out of Hell's Kitchen, might have been the first boot of the season. I do think though that barring weird nominations, she would have been spared over Roshni. I know Ramsey saw a lot in Roshni and gave her a bunch of chances, but again, for the first boot, he usually plays it more by the numbers, and the fact that Roshni seemingly couldn't even serve one good dish of scallops and even got thrown out of the kitchen, I do think that would be more first boot worthy than Christina's bad night on meats. Nonetheless though, had Christina indeed been nominated, would she have dominated the season like she did in real time despite nearly being a day 1 boot? Remember, nobody has ever been nominated on the first night and gone on to win the competition. Heck, maybe in this alternate timeline, Tavon would have won the season and been Ramsey's next protege.
The winner of Hell's Kitchen is Tavon.
Season 11 is another interesting one, although I don't think the noms are that interesting, as I think it's gotta be Danielle and Gina. However, despite Gina's ejection being what got the ball rolling on ejections that night, she had a great potential TV drama beef with Nedra, and Danielle had Liddy's team lost during service. So I do think Danielle is the boot here. However, it wouldn't surprise me had Gina quit the next day regardless, or even pulled an errand and quit right then and there to get away from her team. Now, it's not like this changes much of anything going forward, but nonetheless, I truly would have loved to see a Danielle versus Gina showdown. Talk about polar opposites fighting for their lives. Season 12 now, and this might just be the most boring one yet, as we know the nominees are Nicole and Sandra, and Nicole 100% goes home here. Not only should she likely be in the first boot to begin with in real life, but Sandra is obviously a much bigger personality than Nicole, and there's just no chance Nicole is not the first boot here. I will say, as a massive Gorov stan, I would have loved to see what he could have done with a second chance, as if he can handle his fingers, he should be good. Season 13 is a tough one, as of course, there weren't many mistakes at all during what at the time was the best opening night service ever. Literally the only mistake that was shown was Janae serving 8 scallops instead of 10. I kinda think there might have been more mistakes that weren't shown here, and that could change things, but with the knowledge I have, I guess Janae is the first boot.
Janae,
Yes, sir.
2 times 5.
Sam.
Are you okay? I'm missing 2 scallops. It's not funny.
Season 14 is yet another interesting one, as while Millie, Brendan, and Cameron all made mistakes, from the TV edit, they only made one mistake, and thus, it would have been tough to send anyone home. I do think the blue team would have ultimately decided on Cameron and Michael, and as we saw in the following episode, Cameron isn't exactly great at pleading his case, so I gotta believe he's the first boot in this instance. Season 15 is another obvious one, as not only was Vanessa the only chef shown to be making mistakes in the red kitchen that night, but she was insanely flustered as well, and it's honestly just a matter of on who the other nominee would be. And yeah, nothing really else of note here, other than maybe Mark would have gotten a confessional in his chef jacket in a future episode. I truly thought about skipping season 16, as there was literally no mistakes shown on this night. Now again, I'm sure there were some that just didn't make the edit, but I would simply just be assuming stuff at that point. So I guess the only thing I can go off of is the signature dishes, as I'm sure that's how the red team would have settled this, and in that scenario, Black Jacket and fan favorite Kim is the first boot of the season. While I'm obviously glad that didn't happen, I do wish we got a timeline where Pat isn't the first boot, as he is in my opinion the least deserving first boot in the show's history. On to rookies versus veterans, and once again, I believe Trev escapes being the first boot in this season as well, as the nominees would have been Jen and Trev given they were perceived as the weakest and both had bad nights, but with Jen being the much bigger personality, and Trev also seeming lost even before service began, I believe he's once again the first boot in this alternate timeline.
You don't think they're a little light, or?
No, I don't. There's one thing I never up on.
Why you come to the pond?
And why? Hey. Oh, hey, come here. Just touch how rubber they are. Oh, milky.
Come on.
And hold on. The worst thing is, hey, they didn't come out the pan for me to drain them.
While season 19 is an obvious one, man, does it change the course of this season mightily, as Nikki, one of the most beloved chefs ever, and arguably Hell's Kitchen's greatest underdog, would be the first boot. It stings, but there's simply no other way around it, as she did the worst in the kitchen that night, almost got eliminated in the elimination challenge earlier that day, and broke down during service. Again, thank goodness she would make the most of her second chance, but there's no way she's not the first boot in this scenario.
My brain can't even wrap itself around the accent and the speed and the volume of your voice.
Look, young lady, can't you cook two scallops at the same time?
I can. I misheard, Chef. I apologize.
You misheard.
Look at her. No, she's gonna cry.
I can't keep it together.
You can't keep it together.
I can keep it together, but...
Why are you crying? Are you done?
Season 20 is another service where the red team was essentially flawless, and it's really tough to decipher who goes up for elimination, much less who goes home first. There wasn't even a bad signature dish or any drama, so I guess I have no choice but to choose Josie and Emily, as they were both a bit confused during service. But yeah, I have no idea who goes home, and frankly, honestly just throwing darts at the wall with this one. I guess I'll just say Josie is the first boot and move on, but yeah, let me know in the comments what you think with this one, cause I don't got a clue. Battle of the Ages, and we go from an extremely hard one to an extremely easy one, as the nominees have to be Alyssa and Ileana after their poor performance and arguing with each other throughout the night. And since Ileana literally should have been eliminated earlier that day, no chance she survives this time. And lastly, the American Dream, a pretty easy one to end off with, as we know the nominees were Sandra and Atoya. And while Ramsey did give Sandra a bunch of chances in real time, I gotta believe in this scenario, he plays it by the numbers and gets rid of Sandra, who did the worst in the kitchen that night. But then again, I would have bet a lot of money that Sandra would have gone home over Melissa, so who really knows? But yeah, as much as I love Sandra, I'm really glad in this timeline we get to see Tad on the screens for at least one more episode.
What you need, Mama? Just need that chicken. Oh, you got it? In the oven, right? So you put chicken in the oven? No, I didn't see you. Oh, me.
Man, I'm looking around and I don't see no chicken.
That's not good. I know. That's not good.
I thought she said she put the chicken in the oven.
All right, I'm putting on a sauce for the chicken.
I'm totally misheard. I misheard. I'm deaf as It's been too many rock concerts.
So there you have it, guys. My predictions on the first boot of each Hell's Kitchen season had the opposing team lost service. Let me know which ones you disagree with in the comments below, and give theories on the ones I had trouble with. Be sure to subscribe and like to support the channel, and I'll get you more HK content just like this. With all that said, take care everyone, and I'll see you next time.
Get out of there.